Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is February 5th, 2022, and I'm your co-host, the Fat Wizard, joined today by...
Alamaxia.
And Lobos.
And today we're taking a look at Final Fantasy I for the NES. This was released in North America July 12th, 1990. So I think I am the only person that hadn't played and beaten this. And I think Lobos, you beat it once, and then Alamaxia, I think you beat it like every year or something like that, right?
Pretty much. This is one of my favorite childhood games.
Yeah. And I think it's worth a special shout out. You did a little challenge run here, Alamaxia, which unfortunately we're not watching, but what did you do?
I beat the entire game for white mages.
Oh,
impressive.
That is commitment. And what level did you end up at?
I was 34. There was a grind I had to do from 19 to 34.
Oh boy. Do you know if there is a max level?
There is, level 50.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I stuck with what I thought was like a traditional party, like a fighter, a thief, a white mage, and then a black mage. Interestingly enough, I don't think that's even a recommended party in the manual. I think they recommend not a ninja, black belt instead of the thief.
That's exactly what I did. That's my standard party.
Yeah.
You are running the first party that I did play and beat the game with, though.
The thief is really bad. Like on its best days, it's still worse than the fighter.
Oh,
and
no.
If you look at it, it's like, oh, well, this thing will dodge attacks. Like almost every single boss fight, my darn thief ended up dead.
Oh, no.
But fighter
can you at least
great.
Steal or anything? Or
no, you can't.
I guess not. It's early.
Yeah, and I don't think he crits anymore, or if he does, it's not noticeable.
His weapons have a slightly higher hit and crit chance, but it's not enough to make it noticeable. You're really better off doing black belt, which becomes just an OP god late game.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's walk us through the startup here. I think we walk into the very first city. It's like
Corneria.
Corneria, the City of Dreams, I think is what it was called. Something like that. And it's a pretty, I guess what you would consider now a typical town, where it's like they got the item shop, they got the inn, they got a doctor shop, which will resurrect your characters. They got a white magic, a black magic shop, an armor shop, and a weapon shop. So there's a lot of different things to kind of go to. But, I always enjoy those good gold sinks there.
Yeah.
And, you go in there and you get yourself you start the game with maybe like 200 gold or something. So you buy yourself some pithy weapons and head out adventuring. But before we do that, we head over to the castle. And Lobos, do you remember what the mission is out here in the castle, or what they tell us to do?
Is the princess captured?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really good guess, even if you didn't know.
Yeah. Well, I love the beginnings of these RPGs, because it's always like they don't really tell you anything. I mean, sometimes a little quest to follow, but then you just have this party, and they give you a little bit of gold to buy like one or two items, and I'm always like, well, I'm farming for everything. I'm buying all the shop out. That's always my first go.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I like that. I like it. You can get into the action right away, or you can go and talk to people in the town right away. It's really whatever's interests you. And, I kind of miss towns like this, because I feel like in current, you think of like large scale RPGs, you can go into a town and there's like 5 hours of jibber jabber there, right? Whereas you get in here and there's like 6 guys that'll be like, hey, go save the princess. And it's like, all right, cool, let's go do that.
Yeah.
And some of their dialogues are just copy paste. Are you the light warriors?
Oh yeah.
I am a farmer. Yeah.
I have legs.
We'll talk about that later. That's really weird. And also, there's a well in the first town, which I love. I think there's probably the most dialogue of any object in the game. It's something like, "This is a well. You probably expected it to be something else than a well, but it is just a well." It's like, what?
Perfect.
And then you can click on the fountain. It says something like, "Oh, humans, wash your dirty faces and now see how clean you are." So a lot of like really weird things here. It's, you always kind of wonder, like, was this lost in translation or was it really just really weird?
I'm sure there was a fair amount lost in translation.
Yeah. So, the first thing you're supposed to do is head up to sort of the northwest, and there's a little tower there or whatnot. And there's some bats around there, and we'll learn about those bats a little bit later. Maybe Alamaxia will fill us in. But Alamaxia, you want to walk us through the Garland fight and why we're fighting him?
So Garland took the Princess Sarah, and we are fighting him because he took her. So we have to level up a little bit outside and just go fight him. He's not a terribly difficult fight. Really easy. Just whatever your characters can do, you just use them. Your black mage uses fire. Your fighter and other melee person just hits things. Your white mage heals people, and it doesn't take long.
And by the way, if we're watching the video here, I've got me, the fat wizard, is the thief, most worthless party member. Lobos, I had you as the black mage. I realized after the fact, I'm like, obviously it should have been the fighter, but Alamaxia had you as the white mage, and then all of our powers combined to SMG, which was our fighter, which was like our true powerhouse. So we'll be monitoring their progress as we continue through the game. We just beat Garland, like Alamaxia said, pretty easy fight, and we bring back Sarah and get a loot.
And the king builds us a bridge.
Yes, and I really like this. What happened?
Yeah.
You want to walk us through this here, Lobos? With the kind of title screen.
Yeah, you finish the first quest, and you're like, "Oh man, cool! Am I done with the game or something like that?" And then you cross this bridge north, and they do this cutscene that's so. And they play the theme of Final Fantasy, which has been carried throughout the series practically, and it just tells you kind of the backstory and get ready for the journey. You're about to set off. And so you really feel like, here we go. And it's exciting. Very exciting.
I mean, it's basically a cold open, right? You got yourself some fighting, you got a boss fight, and then it's like, all right, cool. The Final Fantasy thing appears, and it's like, all right, that's the logo. Now the game is starting. So, I really like that. It kind of took me by surprise, but I was like, that's a really cool little touch there. Anyway, you continue on to the north, and, you kind of fight through some monsters here. The fighting will kind of jump around on some of it and try to just introduce some of the creatures. A lot of the times the fights are kind of menial, except for the bosses. So it's just like everyone hits attack and then you just watch. But anyway. Alamaxia, you know what the second town is? I think it's
you're in the town of Pravoka, and the pirate Bicky has taken basically the town over with with all of his pirates. So you need to go over and fight Bicky to get them get all the pirates to go away.
There's a lot of pirates here.
Fills up the entire combat screen.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about the combat here in the combat screen. And Lobos, what better person to walk us through how this is set up?
Yeah, well, if you've ever played a JRPG, you're probably familiar with like your party on one side, enemies on the other side. You can choose between fight, drink, which is to like make a party member drink a potion. I think there's item. No, wait, is there item?
Mm-hmm. There's item.
Just like swap items or throw items, and there's magic. And
also run.
And run,
One of my favorites.
That's right. And in this game, all of your attacks, when you target them, they will not like carry over to different enemies. So you have to
at least in the base version. I heard later versions fix that.
Do you mean later versions like remake or like?
See, I wasn't sure if it meant like later releases of the NES cartridge or like the Wii version or the Virtual Console version.
There's been like 4 or 5 different versions of this game made. There was one made for the PlayStation. There was one made for iOS and Android. And they've all had, I think there was even another one thrown around somewhere. I think WonderSwan even had a version of it.
Wow. All right.
But the later versions really, the remakes, they replaced the spells per long rest with just MP. And it made being a caster a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's interesting.
Casters were tough because I always tried to save my magic for when I really needed it, and often that meant I didn't cast it. So
This is kind of cool though, because I like how a lot of this, you can see a lot of influence from like Dungeons and Dragons with the spell slots and
I
everything.
would say actually there's a little bit more than influence. It's basically a carbon copy.
Yeah,
like
but I
everything
mean,
from the
compared
monsters to the classes to the spells, yeah.
Definitely, but I mean, you could say that about any JRPG because
actually, this one's a little more egregious. Like literally all the fights, except there's only a couple monsters that aren't from D&D. But yeah, like even like Tiamat, the dragon. Come on. But anyway, continue, Lobos. I didn't mean to dissuade you from your.
Now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah,
just the idea of the
D&D,
spell slots and that sort of thing. Yeah. And in this game, your characters are, at least to start with, horribly inaccurate. But so is everything else. So fights take probably like 3 times longer than they should, but you're not getting punished for it. It's just a time waster because it's like miss.
Well, it gives you a feeling of progression with your weapons because the weapons do get, added hit, and then your armor will help you out along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I really did like that you had spell slots, again, like the D&D, and you're like, all right, each town has a different level of spells you can have. I understand what they were going for, where you had to pick, you could only choose 3 out of the 4 spells for each character to learn. And if they all worked properly, that would make for some interesting decisions, but it's a real big bummer when you're like, I filled one of my spell slots with a spell that just literally does not work. Or I think there's even a spell that instead of debuffing their evade, like increases their evade. Is that Alamaxia?
So there's 6 spells in the game that just do not function as intended. Temper, Saber, Exfer, they just simply don't work at all. Lock will always miss. Heal 2 works a little different than Design, but Lock 2, that's the one you're talking about. And it's something you'd cast on the enemy to reduce their evade, but it increases the enemy's evade, which you don't want. That makes them much harder to hit.
Yeah, I think Heal 2 was supposed to... Well, no.
In battle, it was like a Heal 3.
Okay, wasn't there I think there was like a Life 2 that was supposed to be able to resurrect someone in battle, but that didn't work.
Life 2 gives you resurrection with full HP, but any life spell you cannot cast in battle.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay. Well, we've kind of lost the train of the story here, so let me try to bring us up real quick. We have to go find a crown, I think. There's like some guy says, hey, someone stole my crown, go get it back. And I believe that he has some tears that can make someone see. Is that right?
It's a crystal.
Yeah, crystal. Okay.
Yeah. From Matoya, which is, Matoya is a character in Final Fantasy 14, so it's like a really cool throwback. And her track is in this game as well when you go in there, so it's like...
Oh, that's cool.
It's cool.
It was the first thing I learned to play on guitar was the Matoya's Cave theme.
Whoa. Nice, man.
So fun.
Well, and it's a pretty big dungeon. I think that the dungeon we're in now, right, is probably
Marsh Cave.
One of the Marsh Cave. And this is probably one of the biggest dungeons we've encountered so far. There's multiple levels, and this is the first point where I had some troubles. I had some of my characters would die. Some of the wizards we'll see will instant kill you, and I just had to grind for a level or two to be able to get all the things I needed from this cave.
I honestly feel like that this cave is the hardest point in the whole game.
Oh wow!
Because it is such a damage check and a healing check. Like you have to survive. Like Wiz said, some pretty grueling encounters. Some of them you can't run from, especially once you get to this spot right in front of the chest where you're supposed to get the crown. And 2 to 4 wizards will come out. It's not always
random.
It is random, and these guys suck. They hit
look
like
kind
a
of
truck.
Cthulhu's,
Yeah,
right?
they look like
mind
illithids, mind flayers.
Yeah, mind flayers. Yeah. Yeah. So I see wizard, and my inclination is let's cast mute on him, which doesn't work. And I never got mute to work on anyone. I don't know. Maybe it's just very unlucky. It's a real big bummer when you try to apply a status effect and it doesn't affect anyone.
Ineffective does not mean does not affect them.
Wait, what?
Just didn't land.
ineffective means that it didn't land. There are a lot of enemies, even main bosses that you have to that I had to mute in order to even survive.
Oh wow,
that's cool. Well, once you kill those wizards, you get yourself a crown, and then you can head on back to
Elfland. Oh wait,
no, not
Elfland.
Astroia.
You take the crown to Astos.
Astos, right. Yeah. So where we got coming up here in a second here, and we just killed some asps, which poison is a real annoying status effect early on in the game. Because the only way to remove poison, there's a spell you can get, but you're kind of wasting your money on that. But then you can buy a potion for 80 gold, I think, to cure your poison. Mm-hmm. But the biggest problem is you have to buy the potions one by one, and the menus kind of take some time. So it's a real big bummer to have to go stock up on, what do they call them? Pure potions? Yeah,
pure and heal. For the Marsh Cave, I went back and forth between Elfland probably 5 or 6 times. Just I would go as far as I could, then be like, all right, back out, and then heal up. Yeah, rebuy potions. Yeah.
It's probably worth noting. When we fought those pirates, we got a boat, and so now we got to sail our boat around, and that's kind of how we got to Elfland, and then we just saw. We went through the dwarf cave. Yeah. We'll go back there a little bit later. But yeah, here we go. We're turning in our crown and fighting Astos. Who wants to walk through the Astos fight? I don't think it's really too complicated.
I think with him, it's just survive. He does a lot of damage. He hits really hard. I believe he has some spells that'll hit you. I can't remember if this one could cast a spell that would immediately kill a character. I know there's a lot of versions of his character like that same character model.
Yep, the mage or something like that. He just casts rub and erase.
Oh, there it is.
SMG. Yeah.
Erase.
That's a bummer. Erase, yeah.
But this was one that I had to mute him, so you can mute him. And then the white mage spell Ruse increases the white mage's evade by 80, and it stacks. So if you cast Ruse 3 times with all of your white mages, they cannot be hit by melee attacks.
Amazing.
So I sat there for about 15 minutes just meleeing Astos down 1 and 2 HPs at a time. It was wonderful.
Nice.
1 or 2 at a time. All right, that sounds like a good Saturday night there.
It got a lot better.
After you kill Astos, you get the crystal, right? And you give that to Matoya, and then you get a herb. It's a little fetch quest here. And then you can give the herb to this guy to wake him up. And then you get a mystic key, and then the mystic key... actually, it's kind of cool because as you're going through the first couple levels, there's a bunch of doors that are locked, and it says you need the mystic key to get in here. And so you get to do a little backtracking there if you want. But the only place you do need to backtrack to is the main castle in, what did you say, Corneria? Or what
Corneria.
Was Corneria, thank you. And of course, like any good treasury, they're packing TNT.
Well, you never know. It's just excess from clearing out the land when they initially built the castle,
Yeah, so Dwarf Town, pretty cool. And then there's 2 cool things about the Dwarf Town. One is the TNT, but also there's someone else in the Dwarf Town.
Yeah. We have the blacksmith out there.
The blacksmith, yeah.
And he knows how to craft a very mighty sword, should you be able to bring him adamantite, which we don't see for quite some time.
Yeah. But I think that's the second most powerful weapon in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we'll get to that at some point. And so we got the TNT, brought it down to this dwarven dude. I don't remember his name, but he blows open a tunnel for you. And then that basically allows your ship to get to the larger portions of the world. Although you can't land anywhere because the world only has a couple docks that you can get into. So it does a pretty good job. Final Fantasy does a pretty good job on kind of funneling you through the areas that you need to go, but there's still a little bit of non-linearity there to allow you to explore a little bit.
And I really like that after you defeat the Earth Elemental, which we'll do in a little bit, you get an item that really opens up the game to wherever you want to go. You can almost take whatever path you want.
Yeah.
Kind of classic Final Fantasy, I mean, for at least for the earlier, pixel ones, like that's kind of the formula they stick to. So
yeah, you basically walk, you get a ship, and then you get to fly, and that carries over for a lot of I can even think of all the way up to through 9 that it does that, more or less. So
yeah.
Anyway,
if not a ship, then a chocobo.
Or some other ways of travel there. Ultimately, you get your fun airship.
So we're in the Earth Cave now.
The Earth Cave, yeah, because there's 4. So we're the 4 heroes. Actually, I'm going to let you, Alamaxia, describe a little bit about the heroes and then our objectives here that we're trying to do.
So we are the light warriors. We have these orbs that have been darkened, and we have a quest to revive the power of the orbs: earth, fire, water, and air. And we are going down into the earth, basically the earth elemental dungeon, because there is a enemy down here called the Lich, who has basically stopped the flow of earth, and with the elements, which the elements kind of keep the world together. They are what does everything for the world. They are all the elements are basically darkened by the inhabited enemies here. So we have to go and we have to kill the enemies, revive the orbs, which will allow the world to prosper once again.
Yeah, and so once you open up that TNT thing, you basically go to the 4 corners of the world, and there's a boss at each one of those, and then you light up your orb. By the way, a little extra credit here. I don't actually know the name of the world. Does anyone know that off the top of their head?
I don't.
No.
Oh.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know if they... One of the things I want to mention, though, is the manual is gorgeous, though. It comes with a pretty thick, I want to say 60 or 70 page manual, and it basically gives you a walkthrough through the first 3/4 of the game.
Nice.
So there's a kind of says, here's some items that you want to do, or here's how you play the game, and then let's walk you through what you're supposed to do. And I think it gets you all the way to getting the airship, and then it's like, hey, now you got the airship, go kill the last 2 bosses and have fun. So it's really cool.
And there was another thing that would come with the game. It was the map, which would give you a map of the whole world. And if you flipped it over, you had the entire bestiary.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's cool.
And I think it had weapons too, right? The different weapon affinities that each class could have. The problem was the weapons are horribly broken in that a lot of them don't work as intended. Because if you look at wikis, it'll be like, hey, this weapon is strong against dragons. It's not. And also, it's really hard to tell what weapons certain characters can use. For sometimes my thief could equip seemingly long swords, and sometimes it couldn't. So it almost seemed like there's no rhyme or reason to, how you could equip things. And often you go into a store and you're like, what's the stats on this weapon? I don't know. Yeah. So what I often did is before I equipped a new weapon, I'd look at the status of my character and be like, all right, here's the hit, here's the invasion, equip the new thing, check the numbers, and then, based on the numbers, you'd either keep it or de-equip it.
Pretty much.
Alamaxia, is there anything that the weapons do that, I know you can use some weapons, but is there any effects to weapons that aren't apparent just by those stats there? Do you know?
Not really. Not as just I attack with this weapon. It's all pretty much, it has a chance to hit. It has a damage multiplier associated with it. There's not really much. But like you said, there are some weapons that when you use them as an item in battle, they are incredibly overpowered.
Oh, wow.
Incredibly. The Thor's hammer. When you use it casts lightning 2. When you use the healing helmet in battle, it'll cast heal on the whole party. The Zeus gauntlets is a lightning 2 on everybody. You also have
the black shirt is ice too.
Yep.
Nice.
White shirt is
white
ruse
shirt is...
on everyone.
Ruse.
Yep.
Cool.
Some cool stuff there.
Quite a few, and I used by late game. My white mages were exclusively using item.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it helps with the attrition trying to get through the battle of attrition, trying to get through the dungeons. So, so we again, let's catch us up on the story a little bit here. So we went into the earth area, and we fought a vampire, and the vampire has a ruby, and then you go feed this ruby to this giant who opens up this tunnel, and now we go talk to this wizard. Once you go through the tunnel, there's a wizard, and he says, hey, take this rod, bring it back to the earth elemental place. There's a little pedestal or whatever. You can use this rod to open it up, and boom, now you got yourself a passage down to the Lich. So,
what was your reaction whenever you realized you had to go back through this place?
I was like, well, at least I get to farm some more XP.
That's always the thinking. You're like, well,
yeah,
grind a bit more.
I mean,
one thing I do love about the dungeons in this is how kind of maze-like they are. They reward you, and like every Final Fantasy game, they reward you for going to the corners and looking in the corners. You find all these chests that have items that would either cost, tons of money in the store, or you'll find just tons of money.
Tons of money, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is we're doing a fight though. These are the types of fights that scare me. The ones that will paralyze you or instantly kill you, because those can go, or stop you. Those can go really bad, really fast. If you have all 4 of your people paralyzed and you have like 6 or 7 people beating on you, there's almost nothing you can do. And I had a couple situations where the enemies would act first and like instantly kill or paralyze or stop a couple of my creatures, and it's like, and then I can't run from them, and so it's like, all right, well, I guess I'll just hit the reset button. So I think at all I probably lost like 3 hours of progress off and on throughout the game. Anyone else have a similar stories?
I would generally try and out level so that wasn't a problem. So like
that's still a problem.
It was a problem, but I never. Like, it was usually my top 2 guys, which we didn't talk about how accuracy works, but, like, the top 2 characters are more likely to be attacked. Yeah. And so it was my fighter and my black belt, and they were my carries early on. So if they got stunned, I was just kind of, like, trying to keep everybody alive until they got unstunned, so.
Okay,
it was scary, but yeah.
Yeah, but they're easy targets for those status effects there, which by the way, later on you get something called a ribbon, which when you wear it, it looks like it's crap because it's like, oh, you get like 1 armor, but no, I guess it helps prevent status effects, so it's apparently like some of the best,
and it reduces magic damage greatly.
Ooh,
yeah
nice.
So you I think there's only 2 or 3 ribbons in the game, I read.
3.
So one of your person has to run with just a helmet on. But I put a ribbon on Lobo and Alam, so you guys were safe.
Nice.
Smart.
So we're doing the Lich here. Alamaxia, you want to talk about the Lich?
The Lich is a large undead creature that will hit you pretty hard with his spells. He'll hit you with his melee. If you do have a white mage and you have harm 2, that works wonders against him because he's undead. If you have 4 white mages, and he goes down in about a round and a half.
I didn't think about that, but that's a good plan there.
But sometimes you might want to cast anti-fire on this guy because I think he does some fire attacks that can be pretty nasty. If not here, then I know later game.
And to note. Well, I was going to say to note that in this game, unlike most of the Final Fantasies, you can't use cure spells on the enemies, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah. So, like, you can't just, like, cure undead to damage them.
You can't force them to drink a potion either.
Right. Elixir insta-kill.
Yeah. So the Lich is dead. And by the way, I want to talk about, I absolutely love the Lich look here. Like, it's just really cool. It's just like, it's very D&D-esque, very gothic. So it's a very, very cool level.
I really feel like just in general, the enemy design in this game is great.
Yeah,
they do a really great job of just using different colors and different depth of color to really bring life to the enemy. One of the ones that I think is just the neatest is the Chimera later on. There's just so much going on with it, but when you take the moment to look at it, you're like, okay, I can really see every element of a Chimera in here.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that, looking for that here in a bit. And one thing I just want to mention about those boss fights is my go-to strategy was always use the black mage, which was Lobo, to cast fast on SMG, which was my fighter, and that gives them 2 extra attacks, and so that was pretty huge. Like, one of the things that was really cool is I think as your characters level up, they get more attacks, or is that bound to the weapon? I wasn't sure.
As your character levels up, they get more attacks.
Yeah. So SMG as the fighter, at some level he gets 2 attacks. And then 3 attacks. I think he capped out for me at 4 attacks. But with fast, I was getting either 6 or 8 attacks by the end, which was pretty nice, especially when you hit a crit on that.
Yeah.
That's a good time there.
Yeah. And you didn't have a black belt, but black belt, by level 10, you start unequipping. You just leave him without a weapon, and he destroys.
If you have the black belt upgraded to a master and you're level 50, he can one-shot the final boss.
Balance.
A lot of hit points too.
Yeah.
So with the Lich dead, the first gem has lit up, which is the Earth gem, and then we run off to the next little city here. This one has almost like a little hidden area with the 12 sages, and they'll give you a little bit of guidance on what you're supposed to do. They talk about the 4 elements there. But the most important thing is you get yourself a little canoe, and previously there was these waterways that would act as boundaries, and now you can actually go through these little waterways in this little canoe. So we have the ability to walk, we have the ability to sail the oceans, and the ability to traverse these narrow streams. So we have a style movement left, but this will open up to the next area, which is going to be the volcano, which is the fire elemental, or whatever you want to call it.
Kari,
yeah.
One. I always thought that the canoe little graphic when you were traveling sideways, I thought they were all wearing giant cowboy hats, because it shows the silhouette of 2 people, and it's he's got these flat hats. I don't know, it was funny.
Well, it reminds me kind of like Lewis and Clark for some reason. So, exploring the world there a little bit. And one thing I thought was really weird, I don't know if this is a bug or not. So back in the Earth Cave, when you first enter the Earth dungeon and you go to the far west, there's the
Hall of Giants.
Hall of Giants. Yeah, Alamaxia, walk us through that. And is that intended, do you think?
That is 100% intended, and it is every step that you take in there, you get an encounter with giants. And I believe it's always... Is it always 4 giants?
No, it's a random. It's at least 2 to 4, I think.
Yeah, so you always get giants, and that is a place that I used to spend a lot of time grinding out levels there, because they just give so much XP, and it's right at the entrance to the Earth Cave. You can just go right back out, hit a tent, and go right back in.
Yeah. Actually, why don't you walk us through the different ways of saving here? In particular, some items you can buy, right?
Yeah, so the traditional way to save, like in any Final Fantasy, you go to the inn, you sleep, and then it gives you the option to save. Other than that, in order to save out in the world, you have to use either a tent, which will restore a little bit of HP to everyone, but you can at least save. Then there's a cabin, which will restore more HP to everyone, and again, you can save. And then there is a house, which will restore a lot of HP, some of your spells per day, and allow you to save.
You know what the weird thing is I think that the way that was programmed is it does this order of operations. So when you use a house, it heals you, it saves, and then it gives you some magic back.
Oh, really?
Correct.
Because there were situations where I would use the house, and I would then go back into the dungeon, I would die, and reload, and I'd reload back to where I would be, but I didn't have my magic back.
Oh, no.
So I was like, what? That's so weird.
I think the way around that is after you use the house, you use a tent immediately.
Just double dipping.
And also at the house, like if you did not save with it, you did not get the MP. You didn't get your spells back.
Wow.
So that even goes to prove your theory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. I just like the idea of, a party of 4 people just literally carrying a house, and they're just like, all right, where are we putting this thing down?
They're heroes of light.
That's true. That's true.
They're saving the world, and you didn't question killing liches here, so why can't they carry a house?
That all makes sense to me, but it just seems impractical, Maybe it's a kit, one of those tiny house kits, and they're just
it's like a prefab or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we're deep into the volcano now, and this is an area that kind of actually reminded me of the poison fields back in Dragon Warrior, but you basically walk through lava, and it does a little bit of damage. Actually, it's so insignificant. Maybe it's like, a point every time you walk on it, but it was almost like, all right, take about 20, 30 steps, and then use a heal on everyone.
At least the sound when you're walking through it isn't near as annoying as the sound when you're poisoned. When you walk through this fire, it's like this. But when you're poisoned, it's this high pitched, like you want to get rid of this thing.
Yeah, no, you really want to get rid of it there. So, and I heavily use potions in the game. And this was basically, you have a battle of attrition to get to the end boss because of each dungeon, because you only had, if you have one white mage, we're not all Alamaxia rolling like, deep in white mage.
I got heals for days.
Yeah, but you'd have like 9 basic heals and maybe like 4 advanced heals. So basically like call it like something like, I don't know, 16 spells that you could effectively heal. But potions, you could carry 99 of them. So, I'd always stock up. And by the way, I had on my controller, I have auto fire.
Nice.
So what I would do, but it was, you have to hold it down. It's not like a switch.
Yeah, okay.
So anytime I'd go to the store to stock up potions, I just, put the controller down, put a remote on my button, just walk away for 5 minutes. And then when I come back, I have 99 potions. But if I didn't have that, it would have been a pain to do that.
I'm seeing a pattern in your RPG approach where you AFK a lot to level things up or purchase things, with our Morrowind last month.
Wow.
I'm just saying. No, that's just efficiency, man. Efficiency. That's all I'm saying.
Not a real gamer, man.
Oh, man.
Okay. I'll take it. No, whatever.
I think across the game, I went through well over 1,200 to 1,500 potions.
If only there were potions to get your spells back, that would be nice. But no, it's just health, and the health. So to give you an idea of hit points here, I think SMG has something like 400 hit points. He's the high end right now at like level 18, and then Alamaxia's got maybe like 250, and each potion restores maybe like 25 if you're lucky. So it's like you go in there and you'll eat like 20 potions after a bad fight there. But anyway, we've moved on. We're at Kari, the final boss of the volcano. It's kind of like a Naga thing with trying to count how many arms. I think 6 arms and like 6 sabers in each of them. Alamaxia, anything special about this one you want to talk about, or is it just a tank and spank fight?
This is a lot of tank and spank fight. You did the anti-fire, which is good. You can mute Kari. She is one of the easier ones to mute. And and then beyond that, you just really have to worry about some melee attacks, which they're not too terrible. This isn't really, in my opinion, too difficult of a fight. It's much easier than the Earth Temple we just went through.
Yeah, and these bosses will all come back in an upgraded version near the end of the game, and they get pretty nasty. But yeah, right now, not a very difficult fight. Again, especially when they target my fighter with a basic attack. He's got a lot of hit points. He's got a lot of absorb. But my poor thief, you can see he's rolling risky with a 1 hit point. And is he gonna? Yeah, he just died. So
rip.
My character, the thief, was the one that had the least amount of XP at the very end of the game because he kept dying. So I think he was like a level behind everyone else.
He should have stuck with his karate, man. I don't know.
Maybe. So with that Kari completed, we warp out of the dungeon. It's one of the really nice things is once you kill the boss, you get a little bit of fanfare, like you see the gem being lit up, some sort of like beam rises out, and then there's a teleporter pad that just basically says, hey, get out of here. You don't need to go back where you came from. So
I really wish they had something like that after the vampire in the Earth Temple, so you didn't have to walk out and then back in. That was sluggish.
Yeah. I was going to say that's surprisingly like convenient for especially like the first real big JRPG. Like I would have thought, everything would be as inconvenient as possible, and they don't care. They're like, whatever. Yeah. They'll walk back or die.
Yeah. Now, Alamaxia, you said that you thought the Marsh Cave was the hardest dungeon. For me, the Ice Cave, I think that's what this is called, where you get the floater, was the hardest dungeon because there was a lot of lethality in here in terms of the creatures would come on and instantly kill me. But so here we go. We're fighting two mages. I walked into a fight. Oh boy. And they attacked first and they instantly rubbed SMG and TFW. So I basically have Alamaxia and Lobos. God. My mage is still alive. You can't run from mages as far as I can tell. So this is looking pretty grim for the party. I don't know. I don't think you guys are going to stay up here.
Yeah, the mages in here were definitely a pain. They did cause a couple game overs on me going through here. Yeah.
But it is random. You could go through here with no mages, and that's nice. So
interesting thing about the combat randomness in this game is that all of the fights that you get in are predetermined whenever you load the game. Mm-hmm. So if you die and you come back, then you have effectively a new seed of monsters. But everything is based on number of steps that you take. And if you took a different roundabout number of steps, then it would affect the random number generation of the game, so that your next predetermined fight wouldn't have like the same thing that the monsters would do. Like, 'cause they would all do like this. They would all like have a script they would run right at the beginning, and if you loaded a state and tried to go forward again, they would do the same exact thing.
Right. Yeah.
I love it when those are so predictable because you get speed runs where they're like, all right, this is the exact way. Okay, now I had to go over here, kill like two of these guys, and now I have enough levels and stuff to go kill over. Yeah, so a lot of the speed runs of RPGs have that RNG manipulation, which is super fun to watch.
Yeah, and encounter skipping too, where you're just like, they're walking in such a certain way and they just don't get encounters. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we just got ourselves a floater. Lobos, what does this good thing do?
It's an airship. You fly.
Yeah, well, it's a stone that powers the airship. It summons out of the dungeon. But
the float. Yes, yeah. And if it's how I remember. Admittedly, I didn't finish my homework for this one, but I did beat Final Fantasy before. Yeah. You can just go land. You can go land anywhere except like on trees or anything that's.
I think you can only land on grass area.
Oh, is it okay?
Like it's got to be pure, like a pure
green
grass. Because sometimes they'll have a grass with like little blue dots, which maybe that's a marsh or something. But yeah, you can't land on those.
Yeah. I remember when I first played this as a kid. I don't remember exactly how far I got, but I had the airship and I could not figure out where to go. And I knew of like one island that I hadn't been yet, but I think it's completely covered in forest and like you can't land there. And I had to stop. Had to stop there. Couldn't figure it out. There was no Nintendo Power episode.
I did have to look up. There was a town I couldn't figure out how to get to, and it turns out there was like one little tiny tile that you can land on, and that's it's the town of Leafton or something like that.
Leffing, and it's it holds the Leffing people who are the ones that created the floater and basically used the powers of wind because they're kind of the caretakers of wind. They use that to build their floating castle.
Yeah.
Lore, man, it makes sense.
But that's a little bit of ways away. So this is the mermaid town.
On wreck.
But I didn't know this was mermaid. It just seemed really weird because I go up to this person and she says, "Oh, I love my legs. They're beautiful. I'm so glad I have legs." And I'm like, "What?
It's nice
Look,
to have
it's like-
legs.
Are people?" And then as I started piecing it together, I'm like, "Oh, okay. These are mermaids that came up from the mermaid town and became human or something like that." But yeah, I was like, kind of, like, is there like some black magic going on here that's corrupting these people?
No, they're just very appreciative, okay? You have legs.
I love
just don't
my
forget.
legs.
Remember that you may not have legs some other time. So now you
That's
have
true.
them. So
When we see our first dragon down there.
Yeah, we'll get to the Bahamut in a bit here.
didn't we fight Red Dragon already? For the fire armor in the volcano?
Yes, we already beat that. The fire, and we got the flame armor.
Yeah, flame armor.
And I think that's supposed to resist flame or something. I don't know. Again, if you go to the wiki, it will say things that it does, but it doesn't actually do it. Yeah. We're going to quickly just show some of these things here. You'll have to, before you go to the final area, there's a couple areas you need to go through kind of in any order, but we just picked up a cube from a robot guy. We also got a clue that presumably there's a ferry that had been stolen and is out for sale at a caravan out west. And we also picked up a slab, I think. Anyway, all that stuff kind of came in real quick here. It's worth mentioning.
I think the slab is a little later.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we just heard an NPC talking about a slab.
Or, it says that his uncle, Dr. Uni, used to teach with the slab. He was a kind of master of languages.
Yeah, and by the way, when you go talk to Dr. Uni, when you first meet him, he's like, "Don't you know who I am? I'm the famous Dr. Uni." I'm like, I feel like that's going to come into play sometime later, right? So I remembered immediately when I'm like, "Hey, there's a guy that can do this." I was like, "Oh yeah, I know where that is." Let's talk class advancement, though. Why are we picking up a tail here, Alamaxia? It's a rat tail. What the heck?
Because it is a trophy sign that you were able to complete the Castle of Ordeals, and you are strong enough to become basically true light warriors. It upgrades you from being these little guys, almost chibi looking, to something that looks like they would be able to stand up in a good fight. For some of them.
But why a rat's tail? Like, that's the thing I don't understand.
I don't know. I haven't seen any rats in this game, so maybe it's rare.
Oh,
maybe so.
Yeah.
The rare
good
rat
point
tail.
there.
Yeah, it's funny.
We've seen more dragons than rats.
There's a covenant in Dark Souls 2 where you have to get a rat tail in order to enter it. So
yeah, that might be like a thing that, like a cultural thing that
maybe
doesn't that I don't know about. So. Interesting. But like you were saying, Alamaxia, absolutely love the looks of the new characters. Even the thief, like, he's got a mask on. He looks cool. He's still kind of useless, but man, he looks cool. And then I tried to explain to Alamaxia, I think the black mage kind of looks like David Bowie.
That picture was spot on.
Yeah.
Do you have a mohawk?
I don't know what he's got going on there.
His hair is awesome.
Interesting thing with the caravan that we just saw, which is where you buy the bottle to release a ferry. You can land your airship on the caravan. It is the only sand spot in the game you can actually land your airship, because it's not considered like it's something weird with the coding in the game.
Okay.
Honestly.
Huh. And so when you can buy, for whatever reason, you can like buy multiple bottles, because I guess you can unleash the fairies. And if you do it in the wrong spot, it just flies away. So
anywhere you release it, then it'll reappear. I mean, it doesn't reappear, but you can go over to I can't remember what city you find her in, but you go over to this other city, and she's next to a little pool.
So I thought you had to go to the lake and release her, because when I was in the desert, I wanted to like look at the bottle I just got. and it says you open it and release the fairy. I was like, wait, no, in the middle of the desert. I don't want to do that. So I quickly reloaded my game. But okay, so if any, you can release it anywhere, and it will just find its way back to the pool there. Okay.
Yeah. But now that we got the fairy, we went and talked to her. We got the Oxyale, which allows us to breathe underwater and go to the sea shrine.
Yeah, this is for the third one. I think we're gonna be fighting the Kraken here, but this is where we're gonna get the slab, I think. So the dungeon's actually really large. I would say that this is probably, I don't know, it seems like it's the biggest dungeon in the game just by the amount of time I spent here. But when you enter, you can go up a couple floors or you can go down a couple floors. You have to go down to kill the boss, but you have to go up to talk to a bunch of mermaids. You get some hints there, and then I think there's a slab there, and your slab will allow you to give that to the professor, I think. Something like that. And then you also get a clue there that the Mirage Tower, which we've seen a little bit in the desert, looks like kind of a spire sticking out of the desert there. The Mirage Tower can be opened by some sort of musical notes that what did you call them? The leafy?
The leafin, or leafing, or it's Lefein.
Yeah, you know what they are. The elves. They're basically elves, right? Because they have did anyone try to go to the town before you learn their language?
Lupa?
Because I'm curious. Oh, is that what they say?
Lupa? Yep, that's all they say.
Lupa? That's all they say.
Lupa?
Okay. Because I didn't. I couldn't figure out how to get to the town till later on after I already had the language translated. So that would have been kind of cool to go there and be like, that's also kind of weird. You got one town's like, hey, I have my legs. And the other is like, Lupa? It's like, am I going mad? Final Fantasy, what are you doing to me?
But in that town with the Lefein people, there's one NPC you talk to after you know how to talk to them, and they give you the chime. And the chime is that little musical note that you have to use.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll do that real quick. We're going to kill a Kraken here. Unleash the Kraken! This one's a cool little tentacle beast there.
Yeah, it's a cool sprite.
And I guess what in my mind, I was thinking this is probably an ice creature. So I think I maybe do like ice to protect my... Oh, no, I use fog too. Oh, poor Lobo ate it though.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's a shame because all the enemies in this game, well, not all of them, but a lot of the enemies are typed, and this being a water type takes extra damage from lightning. So your black mage here would have been able to tear through pretty quick.
Yeah. Well. SMG is doing good work for me, so let's see. Oh yeah, I just cast Ruse on myself to get everyone easy to dodge. And I think this is another one that's just pretty straightforward. You just kind of hack and slash here. I think this is one of the rare times that my ninja might have out damaged my fighter. And he'll do that. Like if your ninja crits and your fighter doesn't, then he'll do more damage. But yeah. Anyway, the little ocean dungeon is completed. So 3 out of the 4 orbs have been activated, and now we're gonna go back to Dr. Un, I think his name is. And
Lefinish.
Now we know how to speak Lefinish. So we're going to go here because, again, we've been clued in that they know the secrets to opening up the last dungeon we need to go to restore our gems. And I think that these guys... okay, so let's talk about the bats at the very beginning of the game, because those were like the 4 they were the light warriors that existed before, right? Do you remember that, Alexia? Because you can even talk to them.
I do remember there were light warriors that existed before, but I don't remember... the only thing I remember the bats saying are Kiki.
Okay, so when you go back to the bats at the very start, there's the
ones by Astos?
Garland is. No, by Garland.
Oh, Garland.
We'll go back there. You go back there, and when you go back there, when you're going to go do the time travel thing, you can talk to them, and I think there's something like they were the old fighters or the old guardians or something like that. There's some dialogue there.
All right, I'm gonna have to go back and check that. I've never seen
outluring
that.
Alamaxia. This is your home, man.
Never seen that.
That's cool.
Oh, I wish I would have kept that in the video. I cut it for a time, but yeah, go talk to him. And so yeah, we're moving on to the Mirage Tower, which is in the middle of a desert. I love the desert because you fight all these dinosaurs. There's like a T-Rex here. There's like an Ankylosaurus we're fighting now. And it's good XP, but very bad gold. Yeah. So yeah, 650 XP for one kill. If you can get a thing of 4, that's, you're swimming in some good XP. And then I got 1 gold piece.
Well, they don't need money.
Honestly, gold is kind of irrelevant at some point once you hit all your magic spells, which are like the biggest time sink there. But I'm curious, Alamaxia, since you had 4 casters, gold was probably always something that you were having troubles keeping up with, right?
Not really. There's 2 spots in the game that I had to do a ton of grinding on, and these 2 spots also have enemies that give a lot of gold. The first one was called the Peninsula of Power by people that speed run. It's northeast of Provoca. You can walk there before you get the ship. But if you have Harm 2 on enough white mages, you can fight some zombies up there. And
zombies. Yeah.
So the zombies are much higher level because they come from the continent just north. And if you kill off a few of those, you get like a full level and like 3,000 gold.
Wow.
And then later on in the Castle of Ordeals, we had to fight those zombie dragons right after you get the tail. Yep. I fought those zombie dragons from level 19 to level 34.
Oh my.
Because it's a guaranteed fight, and my white mages could just go through them in 1.5 rounds.
That's awesome.
There you go.
But that gave a ton of gold, which was used to buy everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder, do you know because there's a couple areas in the game where there's like spillover encounters from other continents or other areas, like, is that intended? Like, did they just slap these?
They didn't realize it because all the enemies, the random encounters in this game are sectioned off in basically these large blocks on the map. So you'd have, I think the map was separated into like an 8x8 grid. So each square in the grid was one set of monsters, and it just so happened that 8x8 grid on the far right just snuck 2 blocks down into the continent below.
That's so cool. I did read that the game was, Square was a pretty unsuccessful company. This game kind of, saved them, right? It was the lore is that Final Fantasy was kind of their last hurrah, right? And it saved the company, but I did read that this game was rushed in because they released this in like 87 in Japan, I think, or 88, something like that. And it was kind of rushed and there was a lot of bugs there. And I think we're seeing that where like things don't work. Like you said, some of the areas aren't properly zoned off, it sounds like. But for all those issues, it's got that charm to it, right? Where you kind of have to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know what the original title of this game was meant to be?
First Fantasy.
The 4 Warriors of Light.
Fighting Fantasy.
Oh, I've heard that before.
But they chose the word final because it was something that Uematsu really wanted. I don't remember the exact reason, but there was it wasn't what the popular kind of thing is where it's like, oh, this was meant to be their final games because they were on the verge of bankruptcy. No, it was Fighting Fantasy, but they changed the name to more appeal to the American market.
Interesting. Okay, thanks for the correction there. Cool. And while we're getting some lore, we picked up the adamantite, and we got to peer up. So I guess I don't think we're in space now. I don't know. We might be in space.
You are. It is a space station, the Leffings
built. Oh, it is a space station. Okay, so when they say it's like a floating tower or whatever, they mean it's more like out in the Lagrange point or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we got that. We'll go and use that because I'm gonna die here soon, so I might as well go redeem the adamantite. And yeah, we got to look down. There was a little spot there on the area or on the map there, the robot's like, hey, you can peer over the edge here if you want. And sure enough, you can. I was a little bit worried I'd fall to my doom, but it gives you a nice description. It sounds like the 4 elements are kind of converging on the earth there.
Now, up here in the floating castle, there is a ton of great treasure if you have the patience to go look for it. Possibly the best treasure in the game is the Bane sword.
Ooh, Bane.
When you use that as an item in battle, it casts Bane on all enemies, which
that's cool.
Bane doesn't have a 100% hit chance, but when it hits, it insta-kills enemies, and it can even insta-kill the next boss we're gonna fight.
Oh, nice.
Ooh. Well, I did pick up Excalibur, which is a great weapon, and then I walked all the way back through that flying castle, and we are now fighting Tiamat, the popular dragon from Dungeons and Dragons. But I think this is one that I knew. I was like, all right, this is the castle of the air. It's in the air. It's got to be wind, lightning. Okay, I got to cast a lightning to defend against lightning. And I think as soon as I do that, Tiamat basically tries to shock me. And you cast thunder. I'm like, ha, sucker. Yeah, very little damage there. So that was the right call. So I was happy with that.
But if he reaches out to melee you, ouch.
Oh, yeah? Okay. And do you know if you can cast Rub on any of the bosses? Alamaxia? I assume
I
not,
don't think Rub will work, but the Bane works.
The Bane will.
Some of
okay.
them.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything that's not undead. And
there's also another one called Quake, which will open up a crack
fissure
underneath some. Yeah, and then they can fall into it and die instantly.
Then there's the 4 X's.
Cool. Yeah, what is that? What is 4X?
I think it's just I don't know what it actually stands for, but it's like they're removed from the game. It's like they're removed from existence.
Okay, that's cool.
More than erased. They never were drawn.
No one actually remembers them. All right, so we are in the very final dungeon here. We got about 10 minutes left. Alamaxia, those were the bats there we just walked by that I was talking. You could talk to. But I think you go ahead, in 200 years in the future? Or 2,000
years
2000.
In the past.
Oh, in the past. Okay.
Because Garland, actually, we learned that he's not exactly who he says he was. But first we have to get through this very grueling dungeon.
Yeah, this is one I grinded for about 5 levels on.
And it puts you to the test. It's very long, very difficult. Several boss fights along the way. A lot of forced fights. A lot of fights you can't run from.
Yeah,
and there's no chance to rest in here.
That Phantom giving 1 XP, 1 gold. That's brutal, right? Man.
Yeah. But hey,
slap in the face.
The loot that I think Sarah gave you this way back near the beginning when you saved her, comes into play here when you need the loot to open up a passage. And by the way, once you teleport into this area, the only way to get out is through the exit spell or the warp spell. And so your black mage or white mage has to get the party out. And I had a situation where both of them died, so I just had my fighter and thief, and I was like, I guess I just restart because I can't get out, I can't heal them. So yeah, that's rough. But did anyone find any gas dragons I think it's like the first 3 floors you can fight gas dragons. Did anyone see those?
Don't remember.
I did not see any of this run, but they suck.
but they are a lot of XP.
They are.
I think a group of 4. So to compare it to other fights, if I fight a group of 4 like ice dragons or whatever, I think I'm coming out with like 1,600, 2,000 XP. I think a group of 4 gas dragons is about 3,000 or 4,000 XP.
Wow.
So if you can survive the fight, it's very nice.
There is another very powerful enemy out in the floating tower. It only appears in the same level where Tiamat is, called the War Mech.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
The War Mech.
Isn't that like a super boss?
Kind of a super boss. He has the same amount of health as the final boss. Wow. He hits probably harder, and he does give a crap ton of experience. But nice. It is very much a hard fight, and it's like a 1 in 64 chance or something that it'll even spawn.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I did when I was looking through the Wikipedia just to see like, you know, what sort of things are in this game. I did see there was a bunch of, not a bunch, but there's some optional content. One of which obviously was the Excalibur I picked up. So the dungeon we're in here has like 3 intro levels, and then there's 4 themed levels that are each of the elemental bosses or elemental floors you've gone throughout the game. So we just completed the
Earth.
Was it the Earth one?
Mm-hmm.
And that fought the Lich, but the Lich was much harder. He basically opens up that fight with a nuke and does something like 300 or 400 points of damage, which instantly killed both Lobos and Alamaxia, and that made me sad.
So
you gotta make sure to have enough hit points.
Horrible, and if he casts 2 in one fight, then you may as well just reset.
So going on to the next level, that's fire, and we're fighting Kari again, or Kari, whatever. It's the Naga thing with 6 swords. This one was pretty easy. Again, I think the scariest one for me was that Lich, because that nuke is really damaging. But SMG just did a crit, which was like 650 points of damage. So it's like, oof, that's some good damage there. Good job, SMG.
That Excalibur is so good.
So I think I haven't found it yet, but I will give, I think TFW, my ninja is using Excalibur, and then SMG, he's going to get the Masamune. I think it's what it's called, a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be rolling up into that pretty soon. So you move on to the next one after Kari, which is the water with giant sharks. By the way, I just love that there's like giant sharks around this area. Like, what? How does that work?
Why not? Why not, man?
Yeah. We got the Kraken again. Again, all of the boss fights here are amped up. So you fought them, many levels ago, many hours ago, but they're pretty cool fights. They'll do some serious damage. And again, like Alamaxia said, this is really a battle of attrition. If one of your characters goes down this deep in the dungeon and you don't have a way to revive them, you might as well just restart.
And it makes sense because you went back in time, so now they're alive again. It's not just a pointless boss rush. Also,
okay, I guess I didn't think about that. But
yeah,
sure,
they're alive.
Sure.
Also, using our logic, we learned that if a mermaid goes on water or goes on land, it grows legs. So obviously, the giant sharks have come on land, and now they have legs. Yeah, it
makes sense.
They don't show it in the art because yeah. So they're legged sharks.
Okay, well there you go.
Mm-hmm. I love this guy, Evil Man. Look how
Man.
small he is. He's so cute. It looks like he's wielding one of the unicorn's horns.
We got
he
some
kind of looks like Batman.
Unicorns there. Yeah. Like a small action figure Batman, right?
And I feel like the name they gave them, like the lower level version of them, I think is even like they were skirting around copyright. It's not Batman, but it's
Batman.
Something close.
Well, and some of them the abbreviations were a little weird. We fought some vampires, but then we also fought a WZ vampire. It's like, is that wizard vampire?
Yeah,
yeah, and then what? GR is like gray or green.
Oh, I thought it was greater.
Oh, I thought it was great too.
It could be. I think.
Yeah, like you fight a greater ogre. I just called it a Groger. Groger sounds cool.
Oh, Groger's cool.
Groger's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, we just picked up the Masamune, and
which the Masamune can be equipped by anyone, even a white mage.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's always funny to watch a white mage like melee for 300 damage.
Oh yeah. Tiamat just poison smoked TFW here, so he went down, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna go down in the last fight also. So just take a seat, son. let the grown-ups fight. So Tiamat Oh, go for it.
And say there was an item that you could have bought out in the town of Gaia called the Pro Ring, and the Pro Ring is the best hand equipment you can get in the game, not only by stats, but it also prevents your characters from being instantly killed from things like Bane, Rub, X, and all that.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, because I think I found at least 1 or 2 pro. Oh, actually, what it was is I did buy those pro rings, but I only put them on my casters because I was just looking at the armor, the absorb and evade.
Yeah.
And I like, oh well, this pro ring doesn't absorb as much as what the other character's using, so I'll just keep that on. But if I would have known, that would have made him immune to that stuff. That would have been huge. But
yeah, they're arguably the best hand equipment for anyone.
Okay. Well, Tiamat has been completed, and now we just got a little journey down to face the very final boss, Chaos. Alamaxia, since you completed this boss with 4 white mages, I'm gonna let you control the entire segment here. Walk us through everything you want to talk about.
All right.
With Chaos.
So first off, we come in here and it's like, wait, Garland, how are you here? And he reveals that he traveled 2,000 years into the past to release the fiends and send them into the future. And in the future, the Light Warriors defeat the fiends, and Garland lives and travels back 2,000 years to release the fiends into the future, and the Light Warriors defeat it. And Garland, it's a big time loop circle, and he's like, "You will never defeat me." So Chaos is this massive boss. It takes up the entire battle arena. He is very he kind of looks like Goldar from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And he does just a ton of damage. And this is a fight that if you don't beat him in 8 rounds, he'll cast Cure 4, which takes him all the way back up to full HP.
Ooh.
So you have basically 8 rounds before it's kind of a soft enrage, because you won't survive much longer after that.
Damn.
So you
yeah,
have to throw
I looked up.
everything you have.
I looked up his fight after I beat him, and it looks like he has a sequence of like attacks and magic and whatnot that he'll use. So you kind of know what's coming. Is that right, Alamaxia?
In a way, I mean, he will still use melee and other spells at different times, I think. But it really is just a throw up what anti things you can when you're with a traditional party here, and just have your black mage, I mean, literally nuke it. and just throw everything you can. The white mage or the white wizard, if you get the level 8 spell Fade, that is what I had to basically just spam at him until he died. Fade does upwards of 380 untyped damage.
Nice.
So about 5 rounds of that, and he's toast.
I think I read he's got 2,000 hit points in this version. So. And again, my fighter was doing a good couple hundred, but and then I think Lobos, he cast Nuke a couple times, which I think Nuke did a good, 160, 180 damage there. But yeah, it was an intense fight, especially with my ninja going down in like round 3, and I was like just thinking, geez, that took 2 hours to get there. I really want to not have to do that again. But you kill him, and there's a very slow and drawn out sort of like dissolving thing of chaos disappearing, and I guess that's that. That's the end of the game.
What a wonderful game!
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering like how Final Fantasy II compares. Is it kind of more of the same, or is it
no?
Is it better or worse or what?
Final Fantasy II drove me insane.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Only because the encounter rate is disgustingly high, and it has some mechanics where, like, to level up your health, you have to take damage. So it incentivizes you, like, punching yourself in the middle of combat and, like, all this stuff. It's a cool idea, and it's just, yeah, I don't know.
All right, so maybe we'll skip that one.
I mean, I wouldn't mind doing it again, but I'll just have to. I don't know. I'll be mentally prepared this time, and you should be too.
Oof. Okay. And then after that, of course, we had our little Patreon screen, thanking all of our fantastic supporters, and we did get 2 new Patreons this week. I apologize if I have this pronounced incorrectly. It is Lucas Valentia, and then No Life Die. So thank you, both of you, for supporting this episode and future episodes.
Thank you.
And if you're interested in supporting future episodes as well, you can head over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Gaming Show to learn more. Now, I want to interject real quick because we got a new little segment here. We got our first, because, you know, if you guys remember, we always say like, hey, you can contact us, blah, blah, blah. But this is the first time someone actually contacted us through that web form. And that was super cool. I was like, we should read this and talk about it for just like 2 or 3 minutes here. So what do you think about like a little mail segment here, gents?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Let's do it.
Totally.
All right. So this one was sent courtesy of Gunnar Smith. Gunnar, thank you so much for your message. He says, or they say, hey guys, I think it would be super cool if you guys covered Asheron's Call, an old MMORPG, a really fun and intense game. Unfortunately, the official servers have been shut down. However, there are so many different player-ran emulator servers, which are free to play, and that's easy to get back into. Personally, I'd recommend playing on the server Reef Coal. Thanks, guys. Well, Gunnar, thank you so much. I want to walk through a little bit how we choose games, and I'd love for Alamaxia and Lobos to kind of throw their 2 cents in here. So one of the big things that we look for is like big name. Like, you know, we only do 1 a month, so it's got to be something that people can draw in and, you know, sort of like hit a critical mass.
Back to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Asheron's Call, I think, is close to that. The next criteria for us is I usually like to have it something that at least one of us has played and can kind of like have a love for, right? And reminisce like, all right, well, back 20 years ago, this is what I thought about it. I've never played Asheron's Call. Lobos or Alamaxia, have you played Asheron's Call?
No.
Not.
Yeah. So unfortunately, one of these things is I really want to do the game's justice. I want to have a love for the game that we can talk about. And I'm sure Alamaxia and Lobos, you know, you do as well. And so there's always this danger of like, do we go into a game and really all dislike it? And it's like, well, that's not super fun to talk about. Like I'd rather much rather take a game and be like, oh, here's a game we absolutely love and these are why. So that's kind of like how I choose games. Lobos, Alamaxia, I'd love for your input on this. Like, you know, what sort of games do you really kind of look for when you're evaluating what we might play next?
I'm looking for a game that I can either pick up and put down, or a game that I can just binge and get all the way through in a few days. And MMOs, I've played enough MMOs, and that's something that's just really hard to try to properly cover, because there's so many different paths you can go down in an MMO. There's different lore depending on, you know, who you talk to, what quests you do, and a lot of times I never really grasped everything that an MMO really has, except for Final Fantasy XIV, which is the best MMO ever.
And, you know, to that point with MMOs is sometimes the special takes 60 hours to get there. It's the community that you build up around the adversary. You know, I always think that MMOs are sort of like trials by adversity. Is like, you know, EverQuest is a really good example of like, it's fun because you have to sort of work together to overcome these very, very difficult challenges. And, you know, assume we have like 20 hours to play a game. I don't know. We get to what makes Asheron's Call special. I want to throw the question over to Lobos. So, Lobos, what are your thoughts on like types of games we typically do here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's always something that somebody suggests that they know well and they loved when they were a kid or a teenager. And like you said, I think it's got to be something where one of us is super passionate about it. Even if the other two maybe don't quite get it as much, one person can just talk your head off about this game all day. And eventually we'll run out of those for sure, and we'll look elsewhere. But I think I'm less concerned personally with it being necessarily well known, as long as it is something that, you know, one of us knows it well.
Yeah,
and can explain what makes it great.
And I will say that there are a lot of games that we've played that I have never touched or even thought to play, and I have loved going into some of these genres and just games that they end up being so great, so awesome that they've stuck with me. And that is one thing I love, is having a game that either has great mechanics that really stick out or a story that really draws you in.
Yeah, awesome. Well, again, Gunnar, thank you so much for the message here, and hopefully that shares a little bit of insight on the types of games that we cover here.
And we do also have a game request channel on our Discord.
Yes.
So be sure to check that out and drop some names, because I know I don't remember all the games I played, and there might be something someone recommends there that jogs my memory. Like, oh yeah, I want to go do that one. So please join the Discord and do that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And talking about games, Alamaxia, what sort of game should we play next month?
We weren't really in control of the encounters on this one. We couldn't see them coming. I want to make sure that whatever is coming, I know, and maybe I can avoid it. What do we got going on?
Okay, what if the thing coming at you is a giant walking mech that can shoot nukes?
That would sound reminiscent of something we did before.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like a large bipedal? Kind of looks like a T-Rex. Yeah,
it's Metal Gear. Just say it, Metal Gear. That's the game. Just say it.
Metal Gear.
There you go. There we. Okay. Yeah. How'd you know, Alamaxia? We're gonna be playing Metal Gear. You read my mind. Good job on the NES, the original Metal Gear. Actually, no. Maybe that's not the original. I think the original was on like the.
I think it's a port of the original.
I don't remember. It was like some
PC
weird
Engine
console.
or MSX or something. Yeah, I don't
know. MSX, that's what it was. Yeah, so we're going to play the NES version of that. And I think it's just going to be Alamaxia and I that time. And we might try to pull on a third guest here. We'll see. But Lobos, you'll be back for the next game. You just got to take some time to get your Elden Ring on, which is fine. We will think about you. We will say Meryl for you as many times as we can think of.
Thank you.
And we will definitely see you back in April, I think.
Probably, yeah. If I'm not a husk of a shell of a human being by that point from all my binging, but yeah, I'll do my best.
Cool. Well, sadly, we have reached the end credits of this episode, and really wanted to thank everyone for listening to us on the podcast or watching us on YouTube.
Be sure to go to anywhere that you get your podcast from: Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Make sure to like us on there and give us more of a listen. And we do have the website, SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com, where you can listen to us right on the website.
You can also provide us with feedback there if you'd like to, or if you want to go a little more, old school or something, SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say like an envelope and
stuff. Oh, yeah, draw some art on the envelope cover, Nintendo Power style, and then email it.
And just put it in the mailbox and see where it ends up,
You never know.
Don't even need to address it. Throw a stamp on it, see what happens. Oh, man. And we, of course, wanted to give a special shout out to TechnoAxe for much of the music on this episode.
For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Alamaxia.
And I'm Lobos.
And I'm the Fat Wizard. We'll see you in March with Metal Gear.
For
the NES.
Bye.
Bye.